Please forgive the rather rasping nature of my voice. I have been up since about 2 o'clock in the morning. I could not get back to sleep. I had been doing all the morning some very heavy duty chastening, which will be brought up in a later talk. I actually went on a walk this morning, which was the first time I've done that in over 3 months because it was so bloody cold. And I've not had any breakfast or anything that would warrant my voice sounding more lively. So do forgive that. Anyhow, I had about a day's break from recording the last part of this series of mine, Why I Left the Belly Community. And in that part, I detailed myself watching these videos in secret when I was about 12 in, my early days of secondary school. And then I ended with that. They ended that video with myself ejaculating to a video by one Cassie B. And therefore, because of that, I had realized that the reason behind my fascination with these types of videos was because they had sexual aroused me. And I'm a bit more relaxed than I was in that video. I realized that I was quite vehement in my spurn for all that I've done, that I've expressed in that video. I do apologize if I did come off as just a bit of a radical, but just to recall that all of that is just mad. It really is. It really is. But anyhow, let's move on to this part. So, as you know, I was initially horrified by myself ejaculating to Cassie B, and feared that it would happen perpetually. I actually, as I said in that last video, I had thought that my nethers were alive again at school and actually had to run to my own, not my own, to the school's bathroom in order to check on that. Fortunately, they were flaccid, as they should be, and I had nothing whatever to worry about. But even though I was so horrified by all this, I somehow wanted to experience this thrill again and again and again. And I continued watching these videos still late at night. And actually, this, I suppose, we'll pick up where we left off. This obviously occurred in 2016 when I had first ejaculated. But when I first, as I said, when I first did this, it was purely involuntary. It was brought on by no contact whatsoever with myself and my sexual organ. It was purely autonomous. And so I would try late at nights to replicate this exact sensation and would try to get my, I suppose, my member to erupt again involuntarily because it seemed most natural to me. I've done this about a few times, to which videos I cannot say because I don't recall any of them, and it'd be best if I don't recall any of them because, to be honest with you, as I said, suggested by the vehement disgust I had with my actions in that second part, it's best that I don't remember any of these things. So, I would do this. It was purely autonomous, as I said. And I very much liked this. This was back then when I was 16. Obviously, I'm a changed man, so do take that into account. But I had known about masturbation, but had never practiced the act myself. That's because I had no idea how to. Yes, I was, as I said, I was aware of it, but was never really took to doing it until later. It was only when this sort of autonomy had subsided and when it got that much harder for myself to get hard. It's an abominable idiom. I am so very sorry. I really, really am. But it got so much harder for myself to rile myself up without any influence that I decided to teach myself how to partake in onanism. And to this day, I am under the impression that I still have not been able to do it right. Traditionally, though I'm not too sure exactly how this works because I don't intend to go about looking up any of this depraved nonsense, but traditionally I suppose what you would do is you would obviously run your hand vigorously down the length of your member and therefore cause the subsequent eruption. I did not see the point in that. I did not understand that at all. What I did, and this is too much information for you, but this is a very serious video. It should be, I feel it important that I state exactly what I've done. But what I did was I decided for me to continually pinch the head of the member until the eruption had occurred but was suppressed. And then obviously I would disperse the following contents thereof into the loo. That's what I did. And it probably wasn't particularly the best way. It most likely deformed that area. But that was the only way I knew how to. And through my experience in the field, I had realized from that very first video that my special kinks were gurgles, growls, rumbles, sloshes, and basically any form of noise emitted from the stomach. Preferably if it were full. Empty noises didn't necessarily do much for me. I had to there had to be something in there in order that the noises were more, I suppose, rabid and vivacious and such, and that was how I got my fix, if you will. I used that already in one of these previous installments, but I decided to use it again because why not? Anyhow, I went about doing this, continued to do it late at night, and then I stumbled upon the very wicked organization itself, the fat fetish community, in the form of innumerable commenters on even more numberless videos. Now, way before I ever decided to do YouTube videos myself, I was on here making comments on various videos of rather diverse topics. I would comment quite a bit on videos pertaining to literature and art and such like that. I actually even, I confess this, because I did not have my own account at the time, I was using my father's, but to be honest with you, he never really used it that much, so it was pretty much mine, and I would comment under his name on various videos. And I didn't get to commenting on any of the belly videos until I had my own account. But I would see all of these other people's. Now, I don't know any of these other people who make these comments. I have never really delved deep into their channel or their reputation, but a great many of them don't really seem to be a real channel. They don't have any videos out whatsoever. They really seem to be naught but drunken, masturbating perverts, as all of these people are. And myself, obviously feeling ashamed of this, was greatly comforted by the sheer profusion of like peoples, and would continue to go about watching these videos. In fact, the one thing that had made me completely okay with myself having this fetish was one user by the name of Gluttony Gal. Now, you may remember that I listed in one of these installments the channel name BQ12125. That was her. And basically, she was not wholly unlike the great majority of the community in that she did stuffings and bloatings, and she didn't do growling or noise videos, which was very unfortunate. Of course, I'm speaking that in past tense because now I am very much glad that I don't know of any of those videos. I think it's all for the better that she didn't do any of those. But I digress. She did, however, in her videos manage to slip an occasional gurgle here or there unintentionally. And that really did do it for me, I suppose you could say. And the reason why I bring her up is because most of these users have quite an indifferent outlook on the whole community itself. They don't necessarily think it's a fetish or anything sexual or really anything to boast about at all. They mainly do it because, I don't know, they think it's semi-interesting or something of that nature. Gluttony Gal, however, is a, how do I say, she is a flagrant activist for this community and was actually supportive to these depraved devils in the comment section, and actually gave a testimony about how she got into this fetish. That, I believe, all of her videos are now unlisted, and I don't even think she goes by the name of Gluttony Gal anymore. And this sounded so much like my story that I basically thought that I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a lunatic. This is something that's normal, that is acceptable by not society by and large, but by a very insular component of it. And so my confidence in that area only seemed to proliferate. That's how you say it, I believe. But yes. And then the pornographic implications behind this fetish did not come to me immediately. My idea of pornography at the time was anything that exhibited men or women completely naked, engaged in overtly sexual conduct. And obviously, quite a bit of what I was viewing was not indicative of that, and so I put it on the highest possible pedestal and thought myself too good for pornography, and continued on, so blissfully unaware of the truth. Proverbs 12:15, I'll go ahead and pull that up here, clearly says, 12:17, pardon me, he that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit. I'll get into that in another part, but anyhow. So, along with my especial kink of all manner of noises, I stumbled upon this one in particular phenomena called a food baby. Those of you who don't know what a food baby is, it's fairly self-explanatory. Basically, it's the feeling that you get after consuming mass quantities of food. You eat a lot, and obviously you feel as though you are with child, and usually accompanied with that feeling is the evident distended nature of the abdomen, making it look as though you are in fact with child, even though it seems as though you're very early on in the process. There was this one user called Food Baby, also known as Momo. and she would post these videos onto YouTube. And basically, would just detail all of what she ate and such, and show off her food baby and all that. Actually, I think she was originally a fitness channel or something or other, and if you've not already got the message from the previous part, if you're just starting out in this community, leave immediately, because this is what will become of your actions. She was originally a fitness channel who occasionally, I'm going to go ahead and roam about the house here because I am the only one here, who occasionally exhibited her food baby on the pretense that she was eating healthy food, all sorts of fruits and vegetables, and consanguineous food byproducts. But these videos in particular seemed to be so popular that they superseded the other ones. And my word, my God, as I said, this will be you if you continue on in your wicked ways. The people liked this so much that they suggested she do this more often. She ever so kindly, if unwittingly, complied and produced a voluminous collection of food baby videos. So much so that that was all she posted. And that was all she ever talked about. And she would get asked these perfectly repulsive questions like, how do you make one? And how can I get my girlfriend to make one? All this ridiculous garbage that was heaped upon this innocent person, this once innocent person, now turned to, I suppose, their puppet, really. And she would do this. She would do this. She would comply. She'd be obsequious with their demands. So much so that the demand for her food baby videos had increased so much that she decided to set up a Patreon account. Those of you who do not know Patreon, no, Patreon's not a person, not at all. If Patreon were, then I would sure as anything be sure to have to administer upon him a public rebuke. But Patreon is essentially a website where anyone, any artist really, not just pornographer, but any artist can go and put out exclusive content, and in doing so could ask for patronage from various persons for however much money a month, and therefore, I suppose, earn a living off of it. When I was trying to get resources in order that I might be able to publish my novel, which I've still not done yet, but I'm actually very close. Hopefully, I am talking with some people who might know of a small press that accepts unsolicited manuscripts. But when I was speaking to people, one particular person did suggest that I not go the traditional route and instead set up Patreon and put my novel on there, of myself reading it. That's basically what Patreon is. And it is a breeding ground for pornography. It's basically the same thing as all of what's put on those illicit websites. It is in no way deserving of myself putting it on that pedestal at all whatsoever. But the reason why I bring up Momo or Food Baby is because, along with my kink of noises, I grew to appreciate. Well, actually, I grew to deviate, to drift away from the, I suppose, more heavy-set looking women and gravitated towards women who were not particularly big at all, but were in fact very, very thin, but who bloated tremendously in the stomach. And I'll even go ahead and give you an instance in my real life in which I found this to be, I suppose, vindicated. As you know, I had, well, you probably don't know, it depends, but this is actually the subject of my novel. I won't go too much into detail, but essentially, I had known this girl in secondary school, and she was very much deprecated by everyone she met, even her teachers, and I thought this to be just utterly ridiculous. And so I decided to stand up for her in class. And after that, no one in that class really rebuked her, but she still continued to be rebuked by every single other person out there. So I decided that I take on the role as a designated protector. Long story short, this, I suppose, acquaintanceship had gotten to the point where I got to know her more intimately. And one night I actually did experience a filthy dream in which I fornicated with her. It must be noted that she was the dominant officiator of any of these evil deeds, and I was remissive. Or submissive. No, I was not submissive. I was actually trying to discourage this, very much so. And obviously, you know, things did not work out at all. I basically, told her that I did in fact like her, and I ended up, we ended up just being declaring to be friends, and then the year after that, when I first saw her, I conjured up all of these memories, these horrible memories that I had of her, and was terrified by her and such, and made it a point to wholly abrogate her from my existence. All that aside, the reason why I bring her up is because she had this type of body. In fact, I suppose she had something of a paunch, I suppose, but I don't know if she would make a food baby, or however, if it were to be distended, or however you like. But anyhow, so you can see that this did in fact affect me, and somehow infiltrated into my life outside of the internet. And in the novel, most of this information may need to be cut depending upon the magnanimity of the editors of this small press. But in fact, I was very much fixated by the sight of her belly and described it in great, if a tad bit effusive detail. I believe about maybe, I don't know, there's about a dozen or so instances in which I describe the proportions of a stomach. It's just ridiculous. It really is. It really, really, really is. But that's a story for another time. So, obviously, the pornography aspects behind this did not occur to me at all until I decided to view the videos of one particular user by the name of Marina Fuentes. Now, she will become increasingly integral in these latter parts. You will see how integral she will be. But essentially, what she was, or is rather, she was pregnant with child, however, and she was known for, as she was with child, stuffing her face and showing the resultant stomach afterwards, basically nearly risking the life of the poor thing. And I don't even think it was her child. I think it was like she was a surrogacy. It's a very wicked individual indeed. But I somehow was attracted to this. And what I actually started watching her from inception. This was about in 2017 when she put out her first video. She was still pregnant, and actually she put out about maybe 50 or so videos in which she would chronicle her weekly journey and her various bloatings and stuffings and such and all that, and the resultant gut thereof. She made very few noises, but I could not help but just be so utterly fixated with this. And that's yet another indignity that is added to my list of kinks back then, was pregnant women. Yes, very odd indeed. And I continued to watch these videos, but I found out that sitting up late at night really was not very effective at all. In fact, when I would sit up until 4 in the morning, I found that I wouldn't rise until about 9 or 10 or even noon. And I felt as though that most of the day was wasted. And so, in order that I might be able to gain back some hours, in order that I might be able to do other things such as reading or what I was just now starting to do, writing, I decided to get up early, to turn in particularly early at around, I don't know, maybe 8:30, and then rise at around, I don't know, ungodly hours. Some instances I rose at 1 in the morning, others I rose at 2, but typically I would rise at around 3:30 to 4 o'clock. And I got very poor sleep. It wasn't particularly good for my health, but that's what I did. And initially, I did this so I might be able to get extra schoolwork done. Very good reason to do so. But as the schoolwork slowly diminished and I had less to do, I naturally took up this time with gratifying myself in the same manner that I did late at night, but in this case later, early in the morning, before people would wake up. I was very clever in how I timed my sessions, indeed. And this sort of routine of mine had become only more regimented when my final year of secondary school, year 13, I was signed on to the school paper as a writer, fiction. And basically what you had to do was you had to show up about, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, not 2 or 3 hours, more like maybe 1 or 2 hours before everyone else did. It's about 6 in the morning. That's when class would occur. That's when class would occur at around a quarter to 7, but you had to show up at around 6 or so. And so I would use the excuse saying I was just getting ready for newspaper. In fact, I even said to the teacher that I was up since 1:30 one morning, and he asked me why it is that I was up until the wee hours of the morning. And as a cover-up again, I said because at the time I dressed very elaborately in leisure suits and such, not leisure suits, but in just suits in general, and had your three-piece suits, this very gaudy attire. I said, it takes time to get this attire sorted out. And in order to do that, you have to get up exceedingly early or risk having any sleep at all. And he was fine with that, but obviously you all know what I was doing. You all know what I was doing. And evidently, this continued routine started to affect my studies. I started to fall asleep in class. I started to feel very tired during the day. In fact, one instance, I came home from school at around 3:30. I went to my room at around 4. I lie on my bed, and in the tradition of Rip Van Winkle, I did not rise the whole of the afternoon, and actually did not wake until 4 in the morning. That was how utterly bushwhacked I was. I didn't necessarily suffer academically, but I suffered in other respects from this. And so, about late 2017, I suppose you could say, Marina Fuentes had posted what at the time was her last video, saying that she was ready to pop because she was about 37 or 38 weeks with child, and obviously couldn't get back to making videos because she had to take care of the thing and such, and all of the pomp and circumstance that comes with that. So she stopped making videos for a while. And I was very well bored with it. I didn't refer to her channel for a great while, just thinking that, this was her life now. She was going to go ahead and take care of her child, or whoever child it was, and not go back to the whole YouTube thing and just continue on with life, because that is just what happened with someone by the name of Newbie9224, who posted a pair of videos in which she showed her very bloated stomach full of water, and essentially she had just gone through a pregnancy and had just had toddlers, and those videos are about 10 years old, and she's not been back on the website since. So I figured a similar thing would happen to Marina Fuentes. And so I sort of, passively just decided to stop watching her. But I continued to watch a few other people. I don't remember who these people were, but however it was. And I don't exactly remember when this was. It must have been, I guess, shortly after she became inactive. I was looking through the videos of one fortiesnutcase. If you do not know who fortiesnutcase is, he was a YouTuber from back in the very early days who posted quite a few videos just chronicling his life living in his own parents' house in Cleveland, Ohio, and also making home movies and such, and really just doing what ought to be done on YouTube, how YouTube should be. But he had this one video in which I suppose he was showing his father's bar that was erected in the basement. And on one of the walls, he had basically, he had shown that his father had written a specific date. I don't remember I think it was actually the 15th of April, 1930 something. And that evidently was the date on which his father decided to stop smoking. Because he figured, I think I'm just going to quit this stuff. And he never smoked since. I thought I may as well do the same thing with masturbation. Because Marina Fuentes was pretty much dead. And also Momo, Food Baby, was pretty much dead. The only way you could get her videos was through Patreon and such. And there was really no point in it all. Gluttony Gal was dead. All these other people were dead. Chubby Love was dead. Chubby Belly Toy was dead. Big Belly of Sweden was dead. Big Belly Lover 919 was dead. Everyone was dead. And I just figured, I'm going to quit this. Because it's just going to dry up further, like the Serengeti. And I have other things to do with my life. I don't need this stuff messing at all with my affairs. And so I decided to abstain from this for a little while, for about, I don't know, a few weeks. How quick I was, though, to return. And I will discuss my return and the reasons for it and what exactly I did in the next part. Thank you very much for watching. I will go ahead and stop recording this and maybe have a little bit of a break between recordings so my voice sounds a bit more refreshed, hopefully, in this next part. Thank you very much, and we will see you soon.